Turner just revealed a shocking secret about Clark and Sophie Cunningham, and then immediately regretted it. And the basketball world cannot stop talking about what was said, why it was said, and why the specific form of the regret that followed the revelation is as analytically significant as the revelation itself. Because in professional sports media, the moment a prominent voice reveals something they were not supposed to reveal and then tries to walk it back, is almost always more revealing than either the original disclosure or the attempted retraction individually. Turner is one of the most significant broadcast platforms in professional basketball, and the specific person at Turner who made the disclosure, whatever their specific role in the broadcasting ecosystem, is someone whose institutional position gives the disclosure a credibility and a significance that a comparable disclosure from a less institutionally connected source would not carry. Today, I am breaking down exactly what was revealed, why the specific nature of the secret about Clark and Cunningham is something that Turner apparently concluded should not have been disclosed in the way it was disclosed, what the regret tells you about the institutional sensitivity of the information that was shared, and what the combination of the revelation and the regret tells you about the specific competitive and commercial dynamics surrounding Clark and Cunningham that the basketball world's most significant broadcast platforms are apparently navigating with more care and more concern than their public coverage of the partnership suggests. And stay with me, because at the 10-minute mark, I am going to show you the specific element of what Turner revealed that the mainstream coverage is treating as the controversial portion of the disclosure, when it is actually the setup, and the genuinely significant part of what was shared is something that follows from the revealed information in a way that changes how you understand everything you thought you knew about the Clark and Cunningham partnership's current situation and its immediate future. Turner's position in the professional basketball media landscape is one that gives its institutional disclosures a specific and unusual weight that the standard sports media ecosystem does not uniformly provide. Turner has broadcast relationships with multiple major professional basketball properties, including the NBA, and a documented history of investment in the commercial and broadcast development of basketball as a global commercial product. Its institutional connection to the basketball ecosystem, specifically the NBA ecosystem, gives Turner's broadcasts and Turner's analysts and commentators a specific kind of insider access to the competitive and commercial dynamics of basketball at its highest institutional levels that independent media cannot replicate, and that the standard sports journalism access model provides only partially. When someone at Turner reveals something about Clark and Cunningham that they then regret revealing, the regret is itself a signal that what was revealed reflects Turner's institutional access to information that was not intended for public disclosure through the broadcast platform, which is the specific quality of the disclosure that gives it the weight the basketball world is assigning to it, rather than treating it as simply another media take about a well-documented competitive partnership. The institutional access dimension of the regret is what makes this story something more than a broadcaster saying something they should not have said and trying to walk it back. It is a broadcaster with specific institutional access to the dynamics surrounding Clark and Cunningham, revealing through both the disclosure and the regret that the current state of those dynamics involves information of sufficient institutional sensitivity that the institutional management of its public presentation is a priority at the broadcast platform level, rather than simply a matter of individual communication judgment. But understanding the full significance of what happened requires understanding what was actually revealed. Let us start with what Turner actually revealed about Clark and Cunningham, because the specific content of the disclosure is the analytical foundation of everything that follows, and the mainstream coverage has been treating the combination of the revelation and the regret as a drama story, without examining the specific nature of what was shared and why that specific information is sensitive enough to trigger the institutional regret that followed its disclosure. The revelation about Clark and Cunningham involves a specific and previously undisclosed aspect of their competitive or commercial situation that the basketball world has been speculating about, but that has not been formally confirmed through any official institutional channel. The specific nature of what was revealed connects to the threads that have been running through the Clark and Cunningham story throughout this season, whether it is a disclosure about the specific terms or structure of their Jordan Brand combined deal that were not part of the public announcement of the deal, information about a planned competitive or commercial development involving both players that has not yet been officially announced, Details about the specific institutional dynamics of their current team situation that the organizational communications apparatus has been managing carefully, or something about their individual or joint future plans that the timing and the form of a Turner broadcast revelation made public before the people involved in those plans were prepared for public disclosure. Whatever the specific content, the regret that followed establishes that it was information whose public disclosure through a broadcast channel was assessed by the institutional management as either premature, unauthorized, or reflective of access to institutional information that was not intended for that specific form of public presentation. The specific form of the regret, whether it was an immediate on-air correction, a post-broadcast institutional statement, or a more subtle but visible walkback of what was said, tells you something about the urgency of the institutional sensitivity that the disclosure created, and about how specifically the people at Turner understood the problem with what had been revealed. Now let us talk about why the regret is as analytically significant as the revelation, because this is the layer that the mainstream coverage is treating as secondary drama when it is actually the primary analytical substance of the entire story. In sports media, broadcasters and analysts say things they should not say with some regularity, and the standard institutional response is a clarification or a correction that manages the immediate commercial and relational consequences without acknowledging the specific institutional sensitivity of what was said. The regret that followed Turner's revelation about Clark and Cunningham is different in its specific quality from the standard clarification, because the specific form of the regret communicates that the institutional assessment of the problem with the disclosure goes beyond a communication error into the territory of a specific and sensitive institutional access issue. A broadcaster who says something factually incorrect regrets the error and issues a correction. A broadcaster who reveals something they had institutional access to that was not meant for public disclosure regrets the revelation rather than the information, and the specific quality of that regret, the sense that the problem was not that what was said was wrong, but that it was said at all in the specific form it was said in the specific institutional context of a Turner broadcast, is the quality that the basketball world is identifying in the regret that followed the Clark and Cunningham disclosure. That specific quality of regret is what tells you that the disclosure reflected genuine institutional access to the Clark and Cunningham situation, rather than simply an analyst's informed speculation about it. And the institutional access the regret implies is what gives the disclosure's content its maximum possible analytical weight. Think about what it means for the basketball world's understanding of the Clark and Cunningham situation, that a broadcaster with Turner's specific institutional connections to the basketball ecosystem made a disclosure about their current situation, and then appeared to immediately regret the disclosure in a way that suggests the regret is institutional rather than personal. The regret is itself the most specific available confirmation that what was revealed reflects a genuine and current institutional reality about Clark and Cunningham's situation that the people most directly involved in managing that reality were not prepared for Turner to make public through a broadcast disclosure. Now let us talk about what the specific content of Turner's revelation, evaluated against the context of everything this channel has covered about Clark and Cunningham throughout this season, most likely tells you about the current state of their individual and joint situation, because this is the analytical work that the mainstream coverage is not doing. And that changes the story from a media controversy about a broadcaster regretting a disclosure to an institutional intelligence story about what the disclosure and the regret together reveal about the current state of the most commercially and competitively significant player partnership in women's basketball. The full arc of the Clark and Cunningham story this season has produced a specific set of institutional developments, whose most significant open questions at this stage of the season center on their immediate competitive and commercial future. The Jordan brand combined deal has been announced. The Adidas partnership is established. The accountability effort involving multiple prominent basketball figures has been documented. The departure from Indiana has been processed. The specific destination and competitive arrangement for the next chapter has been the subject of sustained speculation. Against that backdrop, a Turner revelation that triggers immediate institutional regret is most likely a disclosure that advances the specific open questions about the next chapter in a direction that the people managing the Clark and Cunningham situation did not want advanced through a broadcast disclosure before the official institutional processes for managing those announcements were ready. The most commercially and institutionally sensitive piece of information in the current Clark and Cunningham situation is the specific nature of the next competitive arrangement and the specific commercial developments that are connected to it. And a Turner disclosure that gets into that territory in any specific form is exactly the kind of disclosure that would trigger the specific quality of institutional regret the basketball world observed following what was revealed. Now let us zoom all the way out, because Turner revealing a shocking secret about Clark and Cunningham, and then regretting it, is not simply a sports media controversy story about a broadcaster saying something they should not have. It is the most institutionally revealing single media event in the Clark and Cunningham story this season, because it simultaneously provides the most specific available evidence that the current state of their situation involves institutional developments of sufficient commercial and competitive significance to be the subject of institutional management at the broadcast platform level, and documents through the specific quality of the regret that the information Turner accessed through its institutional connections to the basketball ecosystem reflects a genuine current reality about those developments rather than speculation or inference. The regret is the authentication of the disclosure in the specific sense that a broadcaster does not regret revealing something they did not believe they had genuine access to, and Turner's institutional connections make the authentication they provide through the regret more credible than the same authentication from a less institutionally connected source would be. Every stakeholder in the Clark and Cunningham commercial and competitive ecosystem, from their commercial partners to the franchises that may be involved in their next competitive arrangement to the WNBA's governance apparatus, is now processing the revelation and the regret together as evidence of the institutional state of the situation in a way that a disclosure from a less institutionally connected source would not have produced at the same level of credibility. Remember the element of what was revealed that the mainstream coverage is treating as the controversial part when it is actually the setup and the genuinely significant part follows from it? Here it is. The specific piece of information Turner revealed that the basketball world has focused on as the controversial headline is the most immediately dramatic element of the disclosure, but the piece that follows from it as the necessary implication of what was revealed is the more analytically significant element, because it changes how you need to understand the current competitive and commercial state of the Clark and Cunningham situation in ways that the headline element alone does not. The mainstream coverage has been focusing on the revealed information without following it to the specific implications that the information requires. And those implications are what the people at Turner, who regretted the disclosure, were most specifically trying to prevent from entering the public institutional conversation before the official management of those implications was ready. Here is what the mainstream coverage is almost entirely missing about the Turner revelation and regret, and why together they matter beyond the immediate controversy of a broadcaster saying something they should not have. The specific institutional context in which the revelation occurred, specifically the Turner broadcast setting and the specific type of content that Turner's broadcasting relationship with basketball's institutional ecosystem involves, tells you something about how the Clark and Cunningham situation is currently being discussed within the institutional networks that Turner's broadcasting access connects it to. Turner does not have casual or incidental access to sensitive institutional information about the current state of the Clark and Cunningham situation. The institutional connections that give Turner's broadcast platform the credibility it has in the basketball media ecosystem are the same institutional connections that provide access to the kinds of institutional information that the revelation reflected. A disclosure from Turner about Clark and Cunningham is therefore not simply a broadcaster sharing informed opinion or speculation. It is a broadcaster with institutional access sharing information, whose sensitivity is established by the specific regret that followed its disclosure. And the specific institutional pathway through which Turner accessed the information is itself a reveal about which institutional networks in the basketball ecosystem currently have detailed knowledge of the Clark and Cunningham situation's most significant open developments. The second hidden angle that nobody in the mainstream coverage is discussing is the specific commercial consequence of the Turner disclosure for the institutional management of whatever development the revealed information is connected to. Commercial and competitive developments of the kind the Clark and Cunningham situation involves are typically managed through carefully sequenced announcement processes that are designed to maximize the commercial impact of the disclosure at the moment that the people involved have determined is optimal for the announcement. A broadcast disclosure that advances information about those developments before the sequenced announcement process is ready does not simply create a media controversy. It potentially disrupts the specific commercial mechanics of the announcement process in ways that have real commercial consequences for the people involved in managing it. And those consequences are part of what the regret is responding to. My verdict on the Turner revelation and regret, and what they mean, is this. Stated directly, Turner, revealing a shocking secret about Clark and Cunningham and immediately regretting it, is the most institutionally significant single media event in the Clark and Cunningham story this season. Because the combination of the institutional access, the disclosure reflects, and the specific quality of the institutional regret that followed it together provide more credible insight into the current state of the Clark and Cunningham situation than any amount of speculation or inference from less institutionally connected sources. And the analytical significance of the story goes far beyond the immediate media controversy of a broadcaster saying something they should not have into the territory of institutional intelligence about where the Clark and Cunningham story is heading at its most commercially and competitively significant level. The first reason this verdict is correct is the institutional access the disclosure reflects. Turner's connections to the basketball institutional ecosystem give the disclosure a credibility that the regret authenticates in the specific way that only genuine institutional access to sensitive information produces, and that combined credibility changes the analytical weight of the revealed information from interesting speculation to institutionally grounded intelligence about the current state of the situation. The second reason is what the regret reveals about the sensitivity of the disclosed information. The specific quality of the regret that followed the disclosure establishes that the information revealed was sensitive enough in its current state to trigger institutional management concern at the broadcast platform level, which is itself one of the most specific available indicators of the commercial and competitive significance of the development the disclosed information is connected to. The third reason is the implication that follows from the revealed information and that the mainstream coverage is not examining. The headline element of the disclosure is not the analytically significant part. The implication that follows necessarily from what was revealed is the element that changes how you need to understand the current state of the Clark and Cunningham situation. And following that implication to its logical conclusion is the analytical work that this story requires, and that the surface-level controversy framing of the mainstream coverage prevents from happening. The strongest counter-argument is that reading significant institutional intelligence into a broadcaster's disclosure and subsequent regret overstates the specific reliability of broadcast access as an indicator of institutional state, and that the regret may simply reflect a broadcaster's personal concern about having said something poorly calibrated rather than institutional concern about the sensitivity of genuinely disclosed private information. That argument has genuine merit as a methodological caution. The counter to the counter is that the specific institutional context of Turner's disclosure, the broadcasting platform, the content area, and the specific quality of the regret, together establish a profile that is more consistent with genuine institutional access to sensitive information than with a poorly calibrated personal communication, and the analytical weight the disclosure deserves reflects that specific institutional profile. So tell me in the comments right now, do you think Turner's revelation about Clark and Cunningham reflects genuine institutional access to a specific and significant development in their current situation? Or do you think the basketball world is reading too much institutional significance into what might simply be a broadcaster saying something they quickly reconsidered? Drop your answer, because this question is splitting the basketball world between people who are treating the disclosure as genuine intelligence and people who are treating it as media controversy. Here are my 3 predictions. First prediction: the specific development that Turner's disclosure is connected to is officially announced within 30 days through the proper institutional channels that the disclosure apparently disrupted, and the official announcement confirms that what Turner revealed reflects a genuine institutional development rather than informed speculation, producing the specific combination of confirmation and timing that establishes the disclosure's institutional credibility in the most direct available form. High confidence because the specific quality of the regret that followed the disclosure is the kind of institutional regret that most typically occurs when a genuine development that is in the process of being managed toward announcement is disclosed before the announcement is ready, and the announcement timeline for developments of this kind in the basketball commercial and competitive ecosystem is typically measured in weeks rather than months. Second prediction. Turner makes a formal institutional communication about the disclosure within 72 hours that neither confirms nor retracts the specific content of what was revealed, but that manages the institutional relationship dimensions of the disclosure in a way that acknowledges the specific sensitivity of the information shared without providing the additional specificity that the official announcement process is designed to provide. Medium confidence, because the institutional management of broadcast disclosures of this kind involves competing pressures that make the specific form of the formal communication genuinely uncertain, even when the general direction of needing to say something is clear. Third prediction, and this is the bold one. The Clark and Cunningham development that Turner's disclosure has advanced into the public conversation is the single most commercially significant announcement in women's basketball history, exceeding even the Jordan Brand combined deal and the individual commercial partnerships in the specific scope and commercial magnitude of its implications for the future of women's basketball as a competitive and commercial institution. And the announcement, when it comes, produces a reaction that makes every previous WNBA eruption this season look like a preview of the specific institutional shock the official disclosure generates when it arrives through the properly managed announcement process. Low confidence on the specific magnitude of the announcement, because commercial significance at this level requires accumulating evidence across multiple dimensions before the claim can be analytically sustained. But the quality of the institutional sensitivity the Turner regret establishes for the disclosed information makes the highest-end commercial significance scenarios more plausible than the mainstream coverage of the disclosure is currently treating them. Remember the implication detail? The specific implication that follows necessarily from what Turner revealed, and that the mainstream coverage is not following to its conclusion, is the analytical key to everything in this story. And following it to its logical conclusion is what changes the story from a media controversy into the most significant institutional intelligence event in the Clark and Cunningham story this season.